My grandson sent me a photo at 7 in the morning. The text said, "Grandpa, who is this woman leaving the motel with 5 strange men?" I opened it. My blood turned to ice. It was my wife, the woman I'd loved for 43 years. The woman who was, at that exact moment, humming in our kitchen while making scrambled eggs. I sat frozen on the edge of our bed, staring at the screen. The photo showed her stepping out of the Starlight Motel on Route 9, laughing with a group of men I'd never seen before. Her hair was loose the way she only wore it when we went somewhere special. She had on that cream-colored coat I bought her last Christmas. The timestamp read 6:15 a.m. this morning. My hands started shaking. How was this possible? She was downstairs. I could hear the clink of the spatula against the pan. I could smell the coffee brewing. My mind scrambled for logic. A twin? A doppelganger? Some cruel Photoshop prank? But my grandson, Theo, wasn't the type to joke about something like this. He was 22, studying criminal justice, sharp as a blade. He wouldn't send something like this unless he was certain. I stood up slowly, my knees weak. The bedroom suddenly felt too small, the air too thick. I walked to the window and looked out at the driveway. Her car was there, right where it always was. I checked my phone again. The photo was still there. Still real. Still her. Before I continue, you need to subscribe to Deserved Revenge because what I'm about to reveal will shock you. Hit that subscribe button now. I went downstairs, my feet heavy on each step. She was standing at the stove, her back to me, wearing her old floral robe, the one with the frayed cuffs. She turned when she heard me. Her face was calm, warm, familiar. The face I'd woken up next to for more than 4 decades. "Morning, love," she said, smiling. "Eggs are almost ready. You want toast?" I couldn't speak. My throat had closed up. I just stood there in the doorway, gripping my phone like it was the only solid thing left in the world. She tilted her head, concern flickering in her eyes. "You okay? You look pale." I forced myself to breathe. "Where were you this morning?" Her brow furrowed. "What do you mean?" "I've been right here. I got up around 6, made coffee, started breakfast. Same as always." I held up the phone. My hand was trembling so badly the screen blurred. "Then explain this." She wiped her hands on a towel and walked over. When she looked at the photo, her face went white. Not guilty, not angry, just pale, like she'd seen a ghost. She stared at it for a long time. Too long. Then she looked up at me and I saw something I'd never seen in her eyes before. Fear. "William," she said quietly, "I don't know what that is. But that's not me." I wanted to believe her. God, I wanted to. But the woman in the photo had the same scar on her left hand from when she burned herself on the oven 2 summers ago. The same tiny mole near her collarbone, the same wedding ring. I took the phone back. My voice came out rough, unsteady. "Theo sent this. He was driving past the Starlight this morning and saw you. He thought maybe you were helping someone, maybe a friend in trouble. So he took a picture to ask me about it." She shook her head, backing away from me. "I wasn't there. I swear to you I wasn't there." I wanted to shout. I wanted to grab her by the shoulders and demand the truth. But instead, I just stood there, feeling the floor tilt under my feet. The eggs started to burn. The smell filled the kitchen, acrid and bitter. She didn't move to turn off the stove. Neither did I. We just stared at each other across a space that suddenly felt like miles. Finally, I said, "I'm going to call Theo." Her face tightened. "Don't." That one word. That sharp, desperate don't. It cracked something open inside me. "Why not?" I asked. She looked away, her hands gripping the edge of the counter. Because I don't want this to turn into something it's not." "Then tell me what it is." Silence. The kind that eats at you. The kind that confirms every fear you didn't want to name. I dialed Theo's number. She watched me, her lips pressed into a thin line. He picked up on the second ring. "Grandpa, did you see it?" "I saw it," I said. "Where exactly were you when you took this?" Heading to my early shift at the diner. I drove past the Starlight around 6:20. I saw Grandma walking out with those guys. I thought it was weird, so I pulled over and snapped the photo. I didn't want to assume anything, but I figured you'd want to know. I looked at my wife. She was staring at the floor now, her shoulders tight. "Thanks, Theo," I said. "I'll handle it from here." I hung up. She finally turned off the stove. The eggs were ruined, blackened, and stuck to the pan. She set it aside and turned to face me. Her eyes were wet, but no tears had fallen yet. "I need you to trust me," she said. I laughed. It came out bitter, broken. "Trust you? You just lied to my face." "I didn't lie." "Then what do you call it?" She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. "I call it protecting you." That stopped me cold. Protecting me from what? She didn't answer. Instead, she walked past me, out of the kitchen and up the stairs. I heard the bedroom door close, not slam, just close, soft, final. I stood there alone, staring at the burned eggs, the cold coffee, the morning light streaming through the window like nothing had changed, but everything had. I pulled up the photo again, zoomed in, studied every detail. The men around her were older, mid-50s maybe, well-dressed. One of them had his hand on her shoulder. Another was holding the motel room door open. She was smiling, not a fake smile, a real one, the kind she used to give me. What would you have done if you saw this? Would you have confronted her right away, or would you have dug deeper first? I didn't know what to do, so I did the only thing I could. I grabbed my keys, got in my truck, and drove to the Starlight Motel. Because if she wouldn't tell me the truth, I'd find it myself. And what I found there, it shattered everything I thought I knew about the woman I married. The Starlight Motel sat on the edge of town like a relic from another era. Faded pink paint peeled off the walls in long strips. The neon sign flickered even in daylight. Half the letters burned out, so it read, Starlight Motel. I pulled into the gravel parking lot and cut the engine. My heart was hammering so hard I could feel it in my throat. I sat there for a moment, gripping the steering wheel, trying to steady my breathing. What was I even looking for? Proof? Answers? Some explanation that would make this nightmare dissolve? I got out of the truck. The morning air was cold, sharp against my face. A few cars were scattered across the lot. A rusted sedan, a black SUV with tinted windows, a motorcycle leaning on its kickstand. I walked toward the office, my boots crunching on gravel. The door chimed when I pushed it open. Inside, the air smelled like stale cigarette smoke and cheap air freshener. Behind the counter sat a man in his 60s, balding, with a thick mustache and reading glasses perched on his nose. He looked up from a crossword puzzle. "Help you?" he asked. I pulled out my phone and showed him the photo. "This woman. She was here this morning, around 6 a.m. I need to know what room she was in and who she was with." He barely glanced at the screen. "Can't give out guest information. Privacy policy." I leaned forward, my voice low and tight. "That's my wife." He met my eyes then. Something shifted in his expression. Not sympathy exactly, more like recognition, like he'd seen this scene play out before. He sighed, set down his pen, and pulled up a logbook on the computer. His fingers moved slowly across the keys. "Room 14, he said finally. "Checked in last night at 11 p.m. Checked out this morning at 6:30. Registered under the name Diane Holloway." My wife's maiden name. My chest tightened. "Who else was registered?" He scrolled. 5 men, no names I recognize, paid in cash. I felt the room tilt. "Did you see them? What did they look like?" He shrugged. "I wasn't working last night. Night shift guy's name is Perry. He'll be back tonight at 10. I nodded, my mind racing. "Can I see the room?" He shook his head. "Already been cleaned. Housekeeping went through an hour ago." I wanted to argue, to demand access, to tear the place apart until I found something, anything that made sense. But I just stood there, frozen, staring at the name on the screen. Diane Holloway. She hadn't used that name in over 40 years. The man behind the counter cleared his throat. Look, I don't know what's going on, but if I were you, I'd talk to your wife before you start digging holes you can't climb out of. I didn't respond. I just turned and walked out. The cold air hit me again, but I didn't feel it. I got back in my truck and sat there staring at the motel room door with the faded number 14 hanging crooked on its frame. My phone buzzed. A text from her. Please come home. We need to talk. I stared at the message. My thumb hovered over the keyboard, but I didn't reply. Instead, I started the engine and drove. Not home. Not yet. I needed to think. I needed to understand. So I drove to the one place that had always brought me clarity. The lake. The water was still like glass. I parked near the old dock where we used to bring the kids when they were small. Back when life was simple. Back when I knew who my wife was. I got out and walked to the edge of the dock. The wood creaked under my weight. I sat down, letting my legs dangle over the water. The cold seeped through my jeans, but I didn't care. I pulled out my phone again and stared at the photo. Studied her face. The way she smiled. The ease in her posture. She looked free, like she was exactly where she wanted to be. I thought about our marriage, 43 years. We'd built a life together, raised 3 kids, survived job losses, health scares, the death of her mother and mine. We weren't perfect, but we were solid. Or so I thought. Had there been signs? Moments I'd missed? I replayed the last few months in my mind. She'd been distant lately. Not cold, just elsewhere. She'd started going to the gym more often. Said she wanted to feel stronger. She'd bought new clothes. Updated her hairstyle. I'd thought it was a good thing. A midlife renewal. But now those small changes felt like pieces of a puzzle I hadn't known I was supposed to be solving. My phone buzzed again. Another text. William, please, I can't explain over the phone. Just come home. I clenched my jaw. She wanted to explain. Fine. But I wasn't going in blind. I dialed Theo. He answered immediately. Grandpa, you okay? I need you to do something for me, I said. Anything. I need you to find out who those men are, the ones in the photo. Run their faces through whatever databases you have access to. I don't care how you do it, I just need names. There was a pause. Then, you sure you want to go down this road? I'm already on it, I said. All right, give me a few hours. I hung up and stared out at the water. The sun was higher now, casting long shadows across the surface. A bird called out somewhere in the trees. Everything looked the same as it always had, but nothing felt the same. I don't know how long I sat there. Could have been 20 minutes. Could have been 2 hours. Time had lost meaning. Finally, I stood up, brushed the dirt off my jeans, and headed back to the truck. I had to go home. I had to hear what she had to say. But I wasn't going to let her off easy. Not this time. When I pulled into the driveway, her car was still there. The house looked quiet, peaceful, like a lie. I walked inside. She was sitting at the kitchen table, her hands wrapped around a mug of tea. She looked up when I entered. Her eyes were red like she'd been crying. You came back, she said softly. I didn't sit down. I just stood there, arms crossed, waiting. She took a deep breath. I didn't want you to find out like this. Find out what? I asked. Her hands trembled around the mug. That I've been living 2 lives. The words hit me like a punch to the gut. I staggered back a step, leaning against the counter to steady myself. What does that mean? She looked down at her tea. It means, for the last 6 months I've been someone else. Someone I used to be. Before I met you. I shook my head, trying to process. I don't understand. She set the mug down and stood up, facing me fully, My name wasn't always Diane Carter, you know that, but what you don't know is why I changed it. I felt cold. Tell me. She hesitated. Then, in a voice so quiet I almost didn't hear it, she said, "Because I was running. From people who wanted me dead." The room spun. I grabbed the edge of the counter, my knuckles white. "What?" "I was part of something," she continued, her voice shaking. "A long time ago, before we met, something dangerous. I got out. I changed my name. I started over. I thought I was free. But 6 months ago they found me. I couldn't breathe." "Who found you?" "The people I used to work for," she said. "The ones in the photo. They're not strangers, William, they're my old crew, and they want me back." I stared at her, this woman I thought I knew, and realized I was looking at a stranger. "What did you do?" I asked. She met my eyes, and for the first time since this nightmare began, I saw the truth in them. Raw, unfiltered, terrifying. "I was a thief," she said. "A very good one. And the job they want me for, it's the biggest score of my life. But if I don't do it, they'll kill everyone I love. Starting with you." The silence that followed was deafening. I couldn't move, couldn't speak, couldn't think. She stepped toward me, tears streaming down her face now. "I'm so sorry, William. I never wanted you to be part of this, but now you are. And I don't know how to protect you." I looked at her, at the woman I'd loved for more than half my life, and I realized I had a choice to make. Believe her, or walk away. But before I could decide, my phone rang. It was Theo. I answered. His voice was tight, urgent. "Grandpa, you need to get out of that house. Right now. Those men, they're not just criminals. They're wanted for murder, and one of them was spotted near your street 20 minutes ago." The phone slipped from my hand and clattered onto the kitchen floor. I stared at my wife, my mind trying to catch up with what Theo had just said. Murder. They were murderers, and one of them was near our house. Right now. She saw the look on my face and her expression changed. The fear I'd seen earlier was gone, replaced by something sharper, colder. She moved past me to the window and pulled the curtain back just an inch, her eyes scanning the street. "How close?" she asked, her voice steady now. Controlled. I bent down and picked up my phone with shaking hands. Theo was still on the line, his voice crackling through the speaker. "Grandpa, are you there? Answer me." "I'm here," I managed. "How do you know he's nearby?" "I ran the faces through the system like you asked. One of them pinged on a traffic camera 2 blocks from your address 18 minutes ago. Black SUV, the same one that was at the motel this morning." My wife let the curtain fall and turned to me. Her jaw was set, her hands steady. This wasn't the woman who'd been making eggs a few hours ago. This was someone else entirely. Someone who knew how to handle danger. "We need to leave," she said. "Now." I just stood there, frozen. Everything was moving too fast. My brain couldn't process it. "William." She grabbed my shoulders, forcing me to look at her. "I know you're scared. I know you have questions. But if we don't move right now, we're both dead. Do you understand me?" I nodded slowly, the fog in my head starting to clear. Survival instinct kicked in. "Where do we go?" "Somewhere they won't think to look," she said. She moved quickly, grabbing her purse from the counter, checking inside. I caught a glimpse of something metallic. A gun. My wife had a gun in her purse. She saw me staring. "I'll explain everything, but not here." She pulled out her keys and handed them to me. "Take my car. Drive to the old grain mill on County Road 12. You remember it?" I did. We'd driven past it 100 times, abandoned for years, surrounded by empty fields. No one went there anymore. "What about you?" I asked. "I'll take your truck. If they're watching, they'll follow me. It'll buy you time." My chest tightened. "I'm not leaving you alone with them." Her eyes softened for just a second. "You don't have a choice. If they get both of us, this is over. You have to trust me. Trust. That word again. The same word she'd used this morning when everything fell apart. But what choice did I have? I took the keys. 30 minutes, she said. If I'm not there in 30 minutes, you call the police. Tell them everything. Don't wait for me. Before I could respond, she kissed me. Hard. Desperate. Like it might be the last time. Then she pushed me toward the door. I stumbled out into the driveway, my legs weak, my heart pounding. I got into her car, started the engine, and pulled out onto the street. In the rearview mirror, I saw her standing in the doorway, watching me go. Then she disappeared inside. I drove. My hands gripped the wheel so tight my knuckles ached. Every car that passed felt like a threat. Every shadow looked like someone watching. I kept checking the mirrors, expecting to see the black SUV closing in behind me. But the road stayed empty. County Road 12 stretched out ahead, flat and desolate. The grain mill rose up in the distance, a crumbling skeleton of rusted metal and broken windows. I pulled off the main road and drove down the gravel path that led to the old loading dock. The car bumped over potholes and weeds that had grown through the cracks in the pavement. I parked behind the mill, out of sight from the road, and cut the engine. Silence. Just the wind whistling through the gaps in the metal siding. I sat there, trying to breathe, trying to think. My wife was a thief. She'd lived an entire life before me that I knew nothing about, and now people were coming to kill us because of it. I checked my phone. No signal, of course. Out here, there was nothing. I got out of the car and walked toward the mill. The door hung half off its hinges. I pushed it open and stepped inside. The air smelled like rust and mildew. Sunlight streamed through holes in the roof, casting jagged patterns on the concrete floor. I found a spot near the back wall where I could see the entrance and sat down on an old crate. And I waited. Minutes crawled by. 5, 10, 15. I kept checking my watch, counting down the 30 minutes she'd given me. 20 minutes, 25. At 28 minutes, I heard the sound of an engine. My heart jumped into my throat. I stood up, moving toward the entrance, staying in the shadows. A truck pulled up outside. My truck. She'd made it. I stepped out into the light just as she climbed out of the cab. She looked different. Her hair was pulled back tight. She'd changed clothes, wearing dark jeans and a black jacket I'd never seen before. She moved like someone who'd done this 100 times. "Anyone follow you?" she asked. I shook my head. "I don't think so." She nodded, scanning the area, her eyes sharp. "Good. We don't have much time." She walked past me into the mill. I followed. She set her purse down on a metal table and pulled out the gun, checking the clip with practiced ease. I watched her, this stranger wearing my wife's face. "Talk," I said. My voice came out harder than I expected. She looked up at me. "What do you want to know?" "Everything." She took a breath and set the gun down. "My real name is Diane Holloway. I grew up in Detroit. My father was a con man. My mother disappeared when I was 6. I learned to steal before I learned to read." She paused, her eyes distant like she was looking back at a life she'd buried long ago. By the time I was 25, I was running jobs across 3 states. Art, jewelry, cash. I was good. Too good. I got recruited by a crew that specialized in high-stakes hits, museums, private collections, things people didn't even know were missing until months later. I felt sick. "And the men in the photo?" "My old crew," she said. "We pulled off 12 jobs together. Never got caught. Made millions. But the last job went wrong. Someone got killed. A security guard. It wasn't supposed to happen, but it did. And I knew if I stayed, I'd end up dead or in prison." She looked at me, her eyes pleading. "So I ran. I changed my name. Moved to a small town in the middle of nowhere. I met you. And I thought I could leave it all behind." "But you didn't," I said. She shook her head. "6 months ago, they found me. They said they had one more job. The biggest one. A private collector in Chicago has something worth $50 million. They needed me to crack the vault. I told them no. I told them I was done. Her hands clenched into fists. They said if I didn't help them, they'd expose me, send evidence to the police, ruin everything, hurt you, hurt the kids, hurt Theo. She stepped closer to me, her voice breaking. I've been stalling them, meeting with them, pretending to plan the job, buying time, trying to figure a way out, but they're getting impatient. And now they know I told you. How? I asked. Because you went to the motel, she said. The clerk works for them. He called them the second you left. They know you're involved now, which means you're a liability. The weight of it hit me. I wasn't just a bystander anymore. I was a target. I sank down onto the crate, my head in my hands. What do we do? She knelt in front of me, taking my hands in hers. We have two choices. We run, change our names, disappear, leave everything behind. The house, the kids, the grandkids, all of it, or... She hesitated. Or what? I asked. Her eyes hardened. Or we finish the job. We do what they want. And then we use the money to disappear on our terms. Clean, safe, untraceable. I stared at her. You want me to help you rob someone? I want us to survive, she said. And this is the only way I know how. Before I could answer, we heard it. The sound of tires on gravel. Multiple vehicles. She grabbed the gun and moved to the window. I followed. Outside, 3 black SUVs pulled up in a semicircle, blocking the exits. Doors opened. Men stepped out. 5 of them. The same ones from the photo. And standing in the center, smiling like he'd just won a game, was a man I didn't recognize. Tall, silver hair, expensive suit. He looked at the mill like he owned it. My wife's face went pale. That's Victor, she whispered. He's the one who found me. And if he's here... She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't have to. We were trapped. Victor stood in the center of the gravel lot like a man who had all the time in the world. He adjusted his cufflinks, then gestured to one of his men. The man pulled something from the SUV. A megaphone. Victor raised it to his lips, his voice booming across the empty field. Diane, I know you're in there, and I know you brought your husband. How sweet. My wife's grip tightened on the gun. Her breathing was controlled, measured, but I could see the tension in her shoulders. We need to get out of here, I whispered. She shook her head. There's no back exit, we're pinned. Victor's voice echoed again. I'm going to give you 2 minutes to come out. If you don't, my men are coming in. And I promise you, Diane, it won't be pleasant for either of you. I looked at her. What does he want? Me, she said simply. He's always wanted me, not just for the job, for himself. The way she said it made my stomach turn. You and him? No, she cut me off. Never, but he's obsessed, has been since the day we met. I turned him down, more than once. That's part of why I left. She glanced out the window again. He doesn't forgive rejection. Victor lowered the megaphone and checked his watch. 2 minutes, Diane, clock's ticking. I looked around the mill. Rusted machinery, broken conveyor belts, a loading platform above us with a busted railing, no weapons, no way out. Just 2 people and 1 gun against 5 armed men. We can't win this, I said. She turned to me, and for the first time since this nightmare started, I saw fear and something else in her eyes. Determination. Then we don't fight them, she said. We outsmart them. She moved quickly, pulling me toward the back corner of the mill where a metal staircase led up to the 2nd level. When I walk out there, you stay hidden. You watch. And when I give you the signal, you run. What signal? I asked. You'll know it, she said. She checked the gun one more time, then tucked it into the back of her jeans, covering it with her jacket. Diane, don't do this. She grabbed my face with both hands and kissed me. Not desperate this time. Gentle. Final. I love you, William. I'm sorry for all of this. but I need you to trust me one last time." Before I could stop her, she turned and walked toward the entrance. I wanted to scream, to pull her back, but my legs wouldn't move. I climbed the metal stairs as quietly as I could, crouching behind a stack of old pallets on the second level. From here, I had a clear view of the entire mill floor and the entrance. My wife stepped outside into the sunlight. Victor smiled. There she is, my favorite ghost. She stopped about 20 feet from him, her hands visible, empty. "Let him go, Victor. He's got nothing to do with this." Victor laughed. "Oh, but he has everything to do with this. You built a whole life with him. A lie. And now he knows the truth. That makes him part of the story." He stepped closer. "Tell me, Diane. Did you ever tell him about Prague? About the ambassador's wife? About what we did in that hotel room?" Her face didn't change. "That was a long time ago." "Not long enough," Victor said. "You still owe me. You walked away from the crew. From the money. From me. Nobody does that." "I paid my debt," she said. "I disappeared. I stayed quiet. I kept your secrets." "And yet here you are," Victor said, spreading his arms. "Dragged back into the light because you can't help yourself, can you? You're a thief, Diane. It's in your blood, just like it's in mine." He circled her slowly, like a predator. "I'll make this simple. You do the Chicago job. You crack the vault. We split the take. And then, maybe, I let you and your husband walk away." "You're lying," she said. Victor stopped. "You're right. I am." He pulled a gun from inside his jacket and pointed it at her head. My heart stopped. I wanted to shout, to do something, but I forced myself to stay still. She told me to wait for the signal. Victor's smile faded. "The truth is, Diane, I don't need you anymore. I needed you 6 months ago. But you stalled. You played games. So I found someone else. Someone younger. Faster. Someone who doesn't have a husband waiting at home." He cocked the gun. "You're a loose end now. And I don't leave loose ends." My wife didn't flinch. "Then why are you here? Why not just kill me in my sleep?" "Because I wanted to see your face," Victor said. "I wanted you to know it was me. And I wanted your husband to watch." He turned slightly, looking up at the mill. "You can come down now, William. I know you're up there." My blood turned to ice. He knew. One of Victor's men raised a rifle, aiming it at the second level. At me. I stood slowly, my hands raised. "Good," Victor said. "Now we're all together. One big happy family." I descended the stairs, each step feeling like a mile. When I reached the bottom, 2 of Victor's men grabbed me, forcing me to my knees on the gravel beside my wife. Victor looked down at both of us. "I'm going to kill her first," he said to me. "I want you to watch. I want you to see what happens to people who betray me. And then I'm going to kill you. Quick, clean, a mercy, really." He raised the gun again, pointing it at my wife's head. She looked at me, and then she smiled. That's when I saw it. Her hand, moving slowly behind her back, reaching for the gun tucked in her jeans. The signal. I threw myself sideways, slamming into the man holding me. He stumbled. My wife moved like lightning. She pulled the gun, spun, and fired. The shot echoed across the field. Victor's gun flew from his hand, blood spraying from his wrist. He screamed, clutching his arm. Chaos erupted. Victor's men reached for their weapons. My wife fired again, hitting one in the shoulder. He went down. I grabbed a rock from the gravel and swung it at the man nearest me, catching him across the temple. He crumpled. My wife was moving, dodging, firing. Another man dropped, but there were too many. One of them tackled her from behind, slamming her into the ground. The gun skittered across the gravel. I lunged for it, my fingers closing around the grip just as someone grabbed my collar and yanked me backward. I twisted, swinging the gun up, and fired wildly. The shot went wide, but the man let go, diving for cover. I scrambled to my feet, looking for my wife. She was on the ground, struggling with one of Victor's men. His hands were around her throat. I didn't think. I just ran. I slammed into him full force, knocking him off her. We rolled across the gravel, fists flying. He was younger, stronger, but I was fighting for my life. I felt his fist connect with my jaw. Pain exploded through my skull. I tasted blood, but I didn't let go. I brought the gun up and pressed it against his ribs. "Get off me," I growled. He froze. Slowly, he raised his hands and backed away. I stood, my legs shaking, the gun still trained on him. My wife got to her feet, gasping for air. Blood trickled from a cut above her eyebrow. Victor was still on the ground, clutching his bleeding wrist. 2 of his men were down. The other 2 had their hands raised, eyes on the gun in my hand. For a moment, nobody moved. Then, in the distance, I heard sirens. My wife looked at me. "Theo?" I nodded. I texted him our location before we left the house. Told him to call the cops if he didn't hear from me in an hour. Victor laughed, a wet, pained sound. "You think the cops can protect you? You think this is over?" My wife walked over to him and crouched down. "It is for you," she said quietly. She pulled a small recording device from her jacket pocket and held it up. "Every word you just said, every confession, all recorded." Victor's face went white. The sirens grew louder. Within minutes, police cars surrounded the mill. Officers poured out, weapons drawn. Victor and his men were cuffed and dragged away. Paramedics checked us over. I had a broken rib and a concussion. My wife had bruises around her throat and needed stitches, but we were alive. As they loaded Victor into the back of a police car, he looked at my wife one last time. "This isn't over, Diane." She didn't respond. She just turned away. Later at the hospital, after the police had taken our statements and the adrenaline had worn off, I sat beside her bed. She was staring at the ceiling, her hand wrapped in bandages. "I meant what I said," she told me. "About loving you, about being sorry." I took her hand. "I know." "Do you forgive me?" she asked. I thought about it, about the lies, the secrets, the danger she'd brought into our lives. But I also thought about the woman who'd fought beside me, who'd risked everything to protect me. "I don't know yet," I said honestly, "but I'm still here." She squeezed my hand. "That's enough." 3 months later, the trial made national news. Victor and his crew were convicted on multiple charges: murder, conspiracy, racketeering. My wife testified against them in exchange for immunity. She told the truth. All of it. Our lives changed. We sold the house, moved to a smaller town where nobody knew us. Started over. Again. The kids were angry at first, confused. But over time, they came to understand. Theo visits often. He says what we did was the bravest thing he's ever seen. I don't know about that. I just know we survived. And I learned something. You can live with someone for 43 years and still not know them completely. But love isn't about knowing everything. It's about choosing to stay even when the truth is hard. If you're still with me, you won't believe what happens next. Drop a comment below with your country so I know you're here. My wife and I are still together, still figuring it out, still learning who we are in this new life. It's not perfect, but it's ours. And that's more than most people get. Here's what I learned from all of this. Secrets don't protect the people you love. They poison them. If you're hiding something from someone you care about, tell them, before it's too late. Before someone else does. Trust is fragile. Once it's broken, it takes years to rebuild. But it can be rebuilt, if both people are willing to do the work. And finally, love isn't about perfection. It's about choosing each other, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. I'm reading and replying to every comment under this post. Tell me, would you have stayed, or would you have walked away? And if this story meant something to you, if it made you feel something, hit that like button and subscribe. Because stories like this, real stories about real choices, they matter. And I'll keep sharing them as long as you keep listening. Thank you for being here. Thank you for letting me tell you my truth. Now go tell someone you love them before it's too late.